Hello everybody, Raven Knight here. It's been a while. It has been a while since we did one of these videos, guys, but it's finally time. We're finally back to do another Assassin's Creed ranked video. For those of you who are new to the channel and don't know what this is, I don't blame you. Like I said, it's been some time, but what we're basically doing is me and my brother Lark here are both working our way through the Assassin's Creed games. Each one gets its own video. And now we're talking the mainstream games, not the mobile games or anything like that. And we take a look at each individual game and we look at them for four criteria. We look at them for their story, how good is the story. We look at them in terms of their history, how historically accurate is it. We look at it in terms of their characters, like how engaging are the characters. Are they fun to follow? Are they unique? Like what makes them different from other assassins? And then we look at gameplay, obviously, like is it a fun game to play? Are the mechanics good? That kind of thing. And today we're looking at the first of the many kind of RPG open world style Assassin's Creed games, although I guess you could argue some of the others are like that, but in these you have more customization of a lot of stuff. And
it's many people have pointed out its connection to The Witcher.
right, it feels a lot like The Witcher, but Lark was the one who played Assassin's Creed Origins, where we see the origins of the Assassin's Creed and how it all began in ancient Ptolemaic Egypt, and we get to see famous figures like Cleopatra, Julius Caesar, and some other really cool names, and you're playing as a medjay, which probably was the big inspiration for the medjay and For Honor, but because Lark was the one who played it, Lark, you're mostly going to be taking the reins here, and I will admit my knowledge on ancient Egypt is not amazing. I probably need to do more research, but me and Lark both have a passion for Rome, and so we gonna be talking a little bit about that today. So let's get things started with story. Lark, you played the game. Why don't you briefly, because I know this is a stupid long game, tell us how the story goes in this game.
Actually, the story isn't really all that complicated because the thing is, being the more RPG style thing, you can do missions sort of out of order and run across and do things as you level up. And so there's a lot of side stories that go. And most of them, I argue, like most of the side stories are actually pretty good and kind of it's kind of enjoyable to go through. Some are better than others, of course. Some are just kind of roll my eyes and go, "Why'd you do that?" And others are like, "Oh, that was really cool. I like what you did there." But let's get down to the main story. So the main story is you got your boy. Your boy's name is Bayek, and I can't wait to talk about Bayek in character. But Bayek is a medjay. Now, the medjay, as you've talked about in your Heroes in History series, were basically ancient sort of, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like sort of policemen sort of kind of things in Egypt.
Essentially, the medjay were these. Originally, the medjay referred to the travelers from Nubia who traveled up into the Egyptian lands, and they were dark skinned. Usually, they were considered very strong. They were warriors, and what they did was they had them fight in the Egyptian military, but they also served as a police force, specifically guarding the pharaoh's tombs and the sacred places. Very good at what they did. A strong police force, to be sure. That was they were basically the guardians of Egypt. Not alone. There were other forces. The Egyptian army had its place. But the Egyptian military itself usually dealt with the outlying areas of Egyptian territory because when they were expanding, they just conquered those territories. So they didn't need police. They just needed, soldiers there. But inside the main area of Egypt, like their already conquered lands, their owned lands, the medjay worked very well for that. So yeah, sorry, carry on with what you were saying.
Yeah, but good description. But anyway, Bayek is one of the last of the medjay because keep in mind, this is Ptolemaic Egypt, the last dynasty of Egypt, and it's not even a native Egyptian dynasty. It's a Hellenistic dynasty established by Alexander the Great's general Ptolemy. And so we are on Ptolemy. I forget the number. It'll come to me later, and I'll kick myself. Don't worry. But it's sort of between the civil war between Ptolemy and his sister Cleopatra. Now you start out as just the medjay hanging around this one little hole in the wall town of Siwa, kind of a little oasis town out in the middle of nowhere, not causing anybody. Has a few cool monuments there. Now, story starts off with you trying to beat up some guys for revenge until you get a flashback that establishes why. Basically, you as Bayek are married and happily and have a young son, a child, and you're basically trying to raise him to be a medjay. Of course, he's a little bit scared, he's a little nervous, because he's a kid.
Right.
And Bayek gets a little frustrated, because, raising kids can be rough. I can respect that.
Don't think so long. Jump.
Yes, Papa.
Trust me. You can.
I do. I will.
Jump then. Come back. You're not ready.
I can do it, Papa.
And so, but eventually, these cultists come out of nowhere, or the hidden ones, or not, no, they're not called the hidden ones, but they're basically, we're just going to call them cultists, or the Order of the Ancients. So, the Order shows up, and basically they kidnap Bayek's kid, and they force him and Bayek to go to this one place, and like, you help us open up this ancient crypt, and he's like, show us the secrets, and he's like, I don't know, I legitimately don't know. And the kid basically tries to fool them and say, oh, I think it's that way. I think it was. So they go off to walk for a second. The kid sneaks around with a dagger to try and cut your binds loose. And then push comes to shove, guys come in, shenanigans happen, and your son dies. But what makes it even worse is he dies because they redirected your Bayek strike into his chest. And so he is heartbroken, and so is his wife, that, their son's dead.
The snake takes that as your answer.
Right.
And that's our main motivation. They want to avenge the death of their son so that their soul can rest in peace in the field of reeds.
Absolutely.
And so it's actually kind of interesting. Like, unlike previous Assassin's Creed games where they just sort of like either look down on religions that they hand wave it, they actually give a great deal of respect to the Egyptian mythology and culture, which, interesting choice. But what I find interesting is that main motivating factor is very powerful, and basically that sort of goes through and it sort of helps guide Bayek and his wife throughout his wife's name is Aya, throughout all of their choices. And so the first part is basically Bayek meeting up with, thinking he's wiped out all the members of the Order that were there. And so he meets up in Alexandria with his wife, Aya, to confirm that she's killed a few, and they think they're done, and so they meet up with some of their buddies, and they find out, okay, work's not over, some of them are still working for Ptolemy. So they go off, find Cleopatra, and they start working for Cleopatra for a little while, and they set up her to have an alliance with Pompey. Then, of course, for those of you that know history, Pompey dies.
Yo, holy shit, he dead!
Right. And so Cleopatra says, okay, new change of plans, help me get to Caesar, and I'll ally with him instead. And so you get to see them meet Caesar, then you help Caesar and Cleopatra in the Civil War versus Ptolemy's son. Well, not Ptolemy's son, but between Ptolemy. Ptolemy dies by a crocodile of all things. That was fun. And now that Cleopatra but in the process, you're hunting down one of the last Order of the Ancients members, at least as far as you know. And as Bayek is about to kill him, Caesar stops him after they've won, going, no, he's a Roman citizen. He needs to be tried under Roman law. And, of course, you don't take that very well. Then to add insult to injury, after it's all over, that guy is now working directly for Caesar and Cleopatra. Then you guys decide, well, guess what? This just isn't working. So instead of trying to be a medjay for the state of Egypt, we'll be it for the people of Egypt. We'll make our own order and work in the shadows to help out the people of Egypt. And so you continue to start hunting down Order of the Ancient members from there, eventually going down and killing Caesar's right-hand man Flavius, and then going down and sending your wife to go kill Caesar himself. Now, that is the general overview. And from there, the Order of Assassins is sort of born.
Right.
Now, this is a massive overview, and the story for me is getting a B.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. I wanted to like this story. It really started off strong. The motivating factor of father and mother grieving over their son as a motivating force to go in and try and avenge their son's death and try and hope that he can get some degree of peace and hope that they can get some degree of peace. I really found that compelling. I like that sort of thing. And there was more to both Aya's and Bayek's character than just that, but we'll get into that later. But there were some problems. The RPG nature of the story, sometimes you got distracted from, the fact that there's other stuff going on, and so that could hurt the story to a degree. But also what hurt the story is the story jumped around, because most of the time you'd be playing with Bayek. You could upgrade Bayek, you could customize Bayek, but then occasionally it says, oh, now you're playing as Aya. And Aya doesn't have all the same things that Bayek has access to. She is set in her ways, and you have to play her the way the game wants you to play her. And it's very clear by the way that the story starts to progress. The Ubisoft actually prefers Aya over Bayek, and it's actually kind of a disappointment because at the very end, the last person you kill is Julius Caesar. But the problem therein is Bayek doesn't go to Rome to do it. Aya does. And then she becomes the official face of the assassins, changing her name to Aten. And the big person...
I thought it was Amunet.
Amunet, whatever. But the big person you thought she was going to kill was Cleopatra, and she just gives her a scolding, even though we know, thanks to Assassin's Creed 2, she later kills her with an asp type of snake. So I'm going, why not just go ahead and have that in the game? And Bayek's just sort of relegated to, oh, yes, he's still in Egypt.
I think my problem was with the story. Now, again, you played the game, so I'm not as familiar with the story, but I agree the ending of the story, and we can go into that in gameplay too, and in history. But that really disappointed me when I saw it because I watched you play that ending. I was kind of like, this doesn't make a lick of sense. Historically speaking, the way they treated Julius was bad. Historically speaking, the way they treated Cleopatra was bad. Historically, again, that's history. But for story here, they did so much to kind of, they started off kind of like, hey, here's Bayek, here's this really cool medjay character, here's this really cool guy character who's got a lot of baggage and weight to losing his son, and we see how that motivates him to go after the Order of the Ancients. Whoever they are, I guess they're the precursors of the Templars.
Yeah, they're sort of precursors to the Templars. The Templars would eventually have you kill them off with this Valhalla thing, but they are sort of interesting because they actually believe like the pieces of Eden are actually from like divine beings.
Well, whatever the case, it's just weird. But whatever the case, that's not the thing. My issue is they like you said, they gradually moved over to Aya being the main character. They kind of neutered Bayek a little bit because think about the way it is in the end. You see Amunet, Aya, basically being the assassin. She's the one doing all the killing. She's the one making things happen in Rome. She's the one taking things to the enemy. Bayek is just running around policing Egypt. Basically, yeah, he's killing bad people, but he's more just, being a like colloquial good guy. Whereas Aya is the one making all the big changes. And I think I have a theory, and I think you share this theory. Ubisoft really wanted to make this game about Aya, but they didn't think it would sell if they made it about Aya. So they sold it under Bayek's face, but tried to slip her in as often as they could.
Well, it also kind of goes to show, because outside the Animus, which gets them no points, in fact, I would argue it detracts them, because there's no more Desmond, no more Bishop, or any of like the hey, it's you. It's like they have a new character, this new chick, I forget her name.
Oh, I remember her name. It's Mary Sue.
No, that's her birth name. All right, I don't know what she changed her legally.
Oh, okay.
But yes, but Mary Sue is basically picture perfect in every way. She and her lesbian lover go down to Egypt after working with Abstergo for a time, and she's upset because she got kicked out because she won't be let into the Animus program with Abstergo, and so she built an Animus herself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, and went to Egypt to go and process the DNA of mummies she found.
Because she knows that too.
Because of course she does. She's just described as being a super perfect,
she knows how to find mummies. She knows how to extract DNA from those mummies. She knows how to analyze the DNA from that mummy, and she knows how to build an animus so that she can relive the memories of those mummies, even though she's been ousted by Abstergo. Because that makes, even with Rebecca from Assassin's Creed 2, they said that Lucy kept sneaking out Abstergo resources to help her build her animus. Yeah. So, at least they explain that. God.
Yeah, well, it's just, there's very little to connect you to her, but the thing is, one of the first times you actually get out of the Animus with her, she goes like, wait, Bayek's married? That means Aya's mummy is probably somewhere close by too. And so she runs down gleefully. It's like, I don't want to play as Bayek anymore. I want to play as Aya.
What happened in there?
Aya's here.
Who's Aya?
Bayek's wife. I could feel her nearby.
You can feel her? Pretty sure that's the bleeding effect. Along with Bayek's memories, you're also experiencing his emotions.
No, you dork. I think she's actually in this cave. Spouses usually share the same tomb. I can almost taste the blood.
Okay, you're making less and less sense, Leela. We need to report.
Not yet. Adding Aya's DNA to the chamber.
It'll take time to sequence. You won't be able to sync with her memories right away. Layla, something else you should know. Since you're mixing gene sequences in an uncontrolled manner, the transition between memories will likely be unpredictable.
I'm comfortable with unpredictability.
And so she plugs it in. Of course, that rejects her at first because it takes time for the DNA to synchronize or whatever. But it was kind of, at first I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. But then I realized, oh, they just wanted to play as Aya. But what I find interesting about all of this is, story-wise, it's established that Aya goes on to establish her little thing in Rome, her little brotherhood in Rome, but yet somehow her body gets transported back to Egypt to be buried next to Bayek. To add insult to injury, they kind of divorce towards the end. And that's another reason the story's getting knocked down. The divorce kind of hit me out of nowhere.
Yeah, Aya just saying, I no longer love you, like, I'm kind of like, where the heck did that come from?
Well, they make the excuse like, well, the fact that a child, like our child died, and the fact that it's taken us so long to avenge him is kind of proof we shouldn't be together. I'm just like,
that makes no sense.
Like, I know people that have lost children, and they're still together, so that's not true. Now, their relationship might be special, but at the same time, when you meet each other again in Alexandria for the first time, they're delighted to see each other. They do what you do. They do what you do on the Discovery Channel. I like the character. I like that we had a loving relationship. I like that Cleopatra tries to make somewhat sort of an advance at Bayek, something playful, but he goes, "No, I was like, thank you, nice stable relationship. I was happy." And then they go and they soil it because I guess Ubisoft just hates a stable relationship.
They hate stable relationships.
Well, I think the problem is... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying they hate stable relationships, but they also wanted to push the strong woman.
Well, that's just the problem. Because they say, like, well, Aya can't be a strong woman if she's married to Bayek. Like, no, she can. She can. There's no reason. There's literally no reason why they could not have stayed together. I can understand them going through some difficulty and struggling, but I think they could have handled that difficulty
way better.
And
I think, and other than just the relationship problems, I think the other factor is, I mean, I understand that this game is going to be longer because of its RPG Witcher style setting. I get that. But at the same time, like you kind of pointed this out earlier, I feel like it gets too lost in itself sometimes. It wants you to explore Egypt entirely, but you're also playing as a person. Like I'm playing Odyssey right now, and we'll get to Odyssey eventually. But my thought is, with Odyssey, you have a reason to explore, right? You have a reason to explore because you're new to the Greek world. Your character, either Cassandra or Alexios, whoever you play as, they're new to the Greek world. They're getting off this island to see the world, and they're looking for people. They're actually searching for people, be it their father, their mother, or what have you. So you have a reason to travel around. Here, you have a vendetta. Vendetta usually means you're going in a straight line. You find out where your target is and you go get them. So it makes less sense for them to be all, let's go explore this new province, when you have like, no, hold on, you need to go this way to deal with this. Yeah, but I want to explore this new territory. No, you don't. You want to get revenge.
There are some territories that deliberately, like, if you want to go to, you just have to explore them on your own time, not because there's actually a thing. Because what'll happen is, depending on where you are, you will get basically like sort of hints about where these characters that you need to assassinate are. At first, you get them from just hunting around. Then you get them from Apollodorus, which Apollodorus is a G. But yeah, overall, just story could have been handled better, and particularly outside the Animus, it was entirely pointless because literally you pop out of the Animus for like three separate occasions, maybe four. And the first time, I'm going to break it down. First time is basically just, oh yay, I get to play as I, isn't that's the grace? And the girl's love interest in a hotel in Egypt going, now be careful, do X, Y, and Z. Then, next time you pop out, oh no, they found and they've killed my girlfriend, even though she appears again in the next game. Okay.
Was it established that they were lesbian lovers?
Though she refers to her as her beloved, so I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet.
If I'm wrong, please let me know, but that's the impression I got.
But, I mean, I would have.
And so and here's where things get stupid, where she drops out of Mary Sue and just enters moron mode. She kills off a Sigma strike team that's been sent to Eliminator. They only have bows. We don't know why.
That's stupid.
I'm sure it's a technical reason rather than a story reason.
That's stupid.
But regardless, she kills them all thanks to the bleeding effect. And then,
yay!
And I'm like, well, now you got to move shot because Abstergo knows where you are, and they're gonna just send more guys. But no, instead she takes one of the radios, calls directly to one of the heads of Abstergo, and basically says, well, I'm going to keep looking for the truth. I know about the assassins. I'm going to do all this, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Like, yeah, when you crawl back in the Animus, they'll just send another team to kill you.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, now that you've mouthed off, you're going to, leave. No, she just crawls back in the Animus. I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you crawl back in the Animus? Like, pack up and move. Get out of there. It's like, even if you have to leave the Ender's Mine, they are coming to kill you. But whatever. And then the next time you pop out, William Miles is there going, hey, I still exist. Are you relevant to this? Not at all. I'm going back in the Animus. That sounds good. Why did I get out? I don't know.
Everything that happens outside of the Animus.
Yeah, and then at the very end, out of curiosity, I get out again just to see what's going on, and William Miles just says, we're waiting on a helicopter. I'm like, oh, okay. Completely pointless.
Anyway.
Yeah,
all right, so story B. I think we can agree on that. Okay.
Got some solid stuff. Had a rocky finish.
All right, now let's move on to history. So how does the history hold up?
Oh, it's a bit of a hit and miss, because they do some things spectacular and other things I'm like, really? Really? You gonna do that? Let's start with the good. So the good thing is Egypt looks beautiful, and they get a lot of things in the culture right. And also, this is the first time we get to see them use like a sort of a museum mode, where basically you can go in and you can just sort of explore around Egypt without fighting, without doing anything, and you can just learn about things. That's really good. I actually know some teachers that have actually used this in their classrooms because it's a good sort of interactive aid to use. I'm all for that. However, they do screw up certain things. And at first, it's like little things you notice here and there going like, no, Greek soldiers wouldn't be using that at that period of time. Also, like the first thing that really blew my mind was they brought in Greek fire. And I thought, like, oh, it's just like some sort of other thing, but it's not actually. No, they referred to it as Greek fire. Like, Greek fire was not made until the 700s A.D., and it was a sulfuric powder. I know this because I actually did research on it when I was in college. Now, I figured it was just something else that they just put a more popular name onto it. But then we get towards the end, and that's the problem. They just drop the baton in the end.
I think that's one of the biggest criticisms we can give this game. Fantastic, but the further along you go, it starts to fall apart.
Like, for example, there's some things that I just love that they got right. Like, they snuck Cleopatra in to see Caesar while wrapped in a rug. That is exactly what happened in history. So, perfect there. But then, at first, how they portray Caesar, I was like, well, that's how I would do it, but it was okay. But then when it's revealed, by the way, he's the bad guy, I'm going to go, now hold on.
First of all, the fact that Julius Caesar was the bad guy came completely out of left field for me. Like, they had no reason to make him the bad guy. But then when we actually hear his speech near the end, like his speech before the Senate, and I was like, oh my gosh, you actually had to change history to make Julius the bad guy. They had to change Caesar's whole outlook to make him have a god complex.
Yeah, well, the thing, I could forgive people for assuming Caesar had a god complex, because that's just sort of like, if you have a Caesar attached to your name, you were probably deified by the Senate. So there is some precedent to that. But the problem is, Caesar was a far more cunning and crafty beast than I think they portrayed him as. Not to mention, when it comes to Caesar, they made it seem like he was a tyrant that was just trying to gobble up power for himself, and he was, but he was clever about it. The people that worked with him and the people of Rome benefited under his rule. Remember, he was part of the Populares faction, not the conservative Optimates. So, like, he had passed several reforms that benefited the poor in Rome, like the bread dole, making sure that land got distributed properly after conquest. He was not just some sort of like, all for me.
Well, we should play the clip, genuinely.
Yeah.
We should play the clip where they show him talking, and what they say is, one of the things that Brutus says is, you're trying to take away land from the people. The land belongs to the people. We need to give the land to all the people, and not just the privileged and your friends.
We want a Rome that offers justice, peace, and land to all its citizens, not just the privileged few.
You are just as privileged as I.
I am not dictator for life.
An honor bestowed upon me by the people of Rome. Would you have me refuse such a gift?
We would have you think of Rome before yourself.
I will unite the Republic. Senatus Populusque.
And that it's the exact opposite.
Yeah,
Julius Caesar straight up gave land to people. Now, yes, was he a person trying to seek personal power? Of course he was. But
that's par for the course for Rome.
Yeah, every leader in Rome has always tried to do that. But Julius Caesar was famous for actually being a pretty magnanimous guy in most respects. So they really screwed with Julius, and then when you kill him, and they get Aya to kill him, oh my gosh, first of all, Julius was killed by a group of senators, including Brutus, but they had her deliver the first blow, and the way that she disguised herself, like, look at this disguise, oh my.
It bugs me, because one, I'm sorry to harp on it again, but Aya gets to kill not only Julius Caesar, but the final actual fight boss in the game. You know, I'm going to save that for gameplay.
Yeah, save that for gameplay, we'll get to that, we're almost done.
Yeah, but anyway, but as far as history is concerned, I wouldn't even mind if you made Caesar the bad guy, but they did not develop him very well as the bad guy. It was at the tail end, by the way, Caesar's bad, like, oh gosh. And then his two lieutenants, Septimus and Flavius, are the ones that you spend more time developing and not much development, but they're the ones that get more development on why you need to do it, because Septimus is the one that actually killed your son, and Flavius is the one that supposedly is using the piece of Eden. So there's reason to go after those, but Caesar, I was like, is he being controlled? Is he being manipulated? Oh no, he's just bad.
It's funny, even when you kill him, when he has that little speech moment, he looks to you and he says, who are you? Like, he had no connection to you. He didn't know who you were.
No, I know exactly what they did with that. They did that to basically go, see, woman, like if he didn't recognize a woman's power and authority. Because, I know this because there's a mission where he asked Bayek to go up and go to the top of the lighthouse of Alexandria to light a signal fire, and Aya says, no, I'll do it, and Caesar, like, when he's getting impatient, going like, I knew I shouldn't have sent a woman to do it, like, oh, I get it.
They were making Julius Caesar just a sexist. Of course they were, because, you know, all white bad guys have to be sexist too, right?
No, it was like, oh yeah, they were all sexist at the time, but that's a standard, and also that's the fault you're going to get him on.
Well, they made him out to be sexist and racist because he refers to her as their ilk, their kind. So he's sexist, he's racist, and then he just says people eventually become what people see them as, and I am a god. I'm like, you do realize Caesar never said that about himself.
Well, yeah, that's just the thing. Like the whole king in Rome thing. Like he may have wanted to be king, but he was clever enough to know he could never openly ask for it.
And then Aya saying in the end, freedom isn't given, it's taken. I'm like, I love that you're trying to give a badass line, but badass lines usually are better delivered
when they've been developed.
Kind of like, I hate to use this movie as an example, but Aragon, the dragon movie, the whole setup with him in that shade or whatever, the shade first meets Aragon and says, I expected more. And then in the end, when he kills the shade, he goes, I expected more. You developed that. There's a reason you said the line that came from somewhere. There's a place where that came from. We see why that happened. But then you have this where she says this line. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, are you saying that you're freeing yourself from Caesar? You weren't enslaved to him.
Yeah, no, because Cleopatra was still in charge of Egypt. She was just allied with Caesar now.
And the other thing is, here's the thing. Like, I'm not going to say Cleopatra was the most model person, but they even made her out to be the villain, and I'm kind of like, you didn't establish her well as the villain.
Well, basically, Caesar and Cleopatra become villains just because they don't oust one of the orders of the ancients. It's like, oh, okay, well.
So because Caesar and Cleopatra don't allow you to kill one of the members of the order, we're like, okay, now they're villains. And I'm like, because when I saw Cleopatra in the game, whenever I saw her, she seemed kind of cool. She seemed like,
like they're cool until they're not.
Like, she had good personality, she had good presence, she had kind of a funny wit to her, but then suddenly, no, now we need her to be a villain. Like, why? And the only reason they didn't kill her was, for one thing, history reasons, but two, you can't have her get killed. Well, she's a strong woman.
It would have been perfect to kill her too. Like, I was surprised, like, when I thought Julius Caesar goes, okay, so let's build up Octavian, let's get Mark Antony in there. Oh, game's over. What? Game's over.
Why is game's over?
Why is game over? We need
at least let us kill Cleopatra. At least
she backstabbed us more than Caesar because she knew us longer. Caesar just kind of saw you as an ally of convenience. Cleopatra had Aya on her side for years.
And I'll be real honest. It doesn't make sense that she backstabbed. That's the thing. They just said, oh, hold on, these enemies aren't enough. Let's get some actual Cleopatra and Caesar. They're now enemies. Like,
yeah, they're now enemies. But then they don't follow through on the Cleopatra enemies. Another problem.
That was what surprised me, though. Hold on, because in Assassin's Creed 2, they said that Amunet kills Cleopatra, but the way they portrayed her in this, I was thinking, why would you kill her? She seems awesome. Like,
no, it's like, okay, you want to kill her because she backstabbed you? And it's like, all right, go ahead, do it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Like, no, you're not going to do it. Why not?
Why? Yeah.
We killed Caesar for less reasons. But
we killed him for no reason.
Ubisoft, how often was your Little Caesar's pizza cold? Was this a deliberate retribution? But seriously, another problem I have with it is Brutus and Cassius show up. I don't think they get 2 lines of dialogue.
No.
They get no development. Like, listen, if you want to make Caesar the bad guy, I am okay with that, but you have to build that up. Shakespeare at least build up Brutus and Cassius themselves, particularly built us Brutus as a noble guy that's got misdirected. And that's probably the best way you can look at him, because if you look at Brutus in actual history, he's kind of a rube.
He's an idiot. Let's be real. Brutus is kind of a moron.
Yeah, because Caesar literally thought of him as an heir. If Octavian didn't exist, he would have inherited all of Caesar's stuff.
That's why Caesar famously said, "You too, Brutus."
And he approached him and reached, like, "Do you too, my child?" Because he's just like, "I did everything for you, dude." And there was a good chance he actually was Caesar's biological child.
Well, okay. Anyway, what is history's grade? We've harped on that enough.
History is getting a B because the Egypt stuff in and of itself, pretty good. The ending stuff with the Romans and the conspiracy, it just falls really flat.
Yeah. And you also, we actually discussed this. We were going to give it a C, but you really wanted to give them props for the museum mode.
Yes, I did want to give them props for the museum mode, and there's other things that pop into it that kind of inhibit it. I know they're more tongue-in-cheek and not actually supposed to be there, but like you get Final Fantasy gear because
oh god,
and
yeah,
like, that's not helping you in history. It's fun though. It's fun. I like riding on the little bird camel thing, but it does sort of like take it, because remember in Assassin's Creed 1, it was like, well, you can't have that crossbow because they wouldn't have had that at that specific time. Now it's like, you want a magical steampunk sword and a camel bird? Well, that doesn't seem historically accurate. Do you want it? Yes, give it to me. All right. As long as you understand the quote.
And the aliens built the pyramids, I guess.
No. I'm assuming the
Isu did, I guess. The Isu apparently do everything.
Actually, they were remarkably sparse from this.
Oh, good. That is one benefit. All right, well, so we've got a B for story and a B for history. Time for gameplay. So,
gameplay's last, characters next.
Oh, you want to do characters? Okay, we can do characters next. Yep, characters it is. All
characters, it's a C.
A C.
Now, that might surprise some of you, because I was like, well, don't you like Bayek? I love Bayek.
Yeah.
Bayek he is probably one of the best Assassin's characters we've seen.
Since Ezio,
honestly, yeah. The only one that comes close to him is Ezio, because he's not just, I want revenge all the time. And someone actually commented when we did Assassin's Creed 3, saying, like, well, I guess you won't like Bayek because you didn't like Connor.
And you're just not going to like any pasty white, you're not going to like any assassin that isn't pasty white. And I'm like...
Or in a Playboy, I'm like, well, Bayek is not a Playboy, and he ain't white. I love him, though.
But Bayek is kick-ass.
Because here's the thing that endeared me to Bayek. Not only is he on a mission and a vendetta, but when he's not directly on those missions, you see him open up. He laughs with friends. He reminisces with his wife. And my favorite thing to see Bayek with is, since he has experience as a father, he's great with kids. There's times like where he goes in to meet friends, and then you have all these kids come up and tackle him, Uncle Bayek, and he's like, be careful, I'll come and get you. And he's just...
Oh, vanquished by a gang of ruffians, huh? Silent as kept.
Uncle Bayek! Uncle Bayek! Hello, Uncle.
Jewels of my life, why have you left your mother's side?
Pick me up, Uncle Bayek!
See now, there is no need to attack a man from behind. We're not numbering him 4-1. Huh?
You told us to secure every advantage possible over Attainer's foe.
Yes. And I am very dangerous! Hide well, for the wanderer stalks your path.
Oh, that's cute. Now that I like.
Aw, that's sweet.
Because you see, what he has is character. What he has is he has a personality. He has character. Like he is not just like. I'm trying to think of, like, when you look at Connor, he is just deadpan boring. He smiles like maybe twice in the whole game. You don't know anything about Connor except for the fact that I need to get, like, what was his name? Charles Lee. I need to get Charles. That's how I remember Charles Lee's name, by the way. Not because of historical reasons, but because that's all Connor gives a fuck about. But you look at all these other assassins. Now, hold on. I'm going somewhere. You look at all these other assassins that we've seen, be it Connor, be it Edward, be it Hatham. None of them portray anything outside of a singular direction attitude. And while Bayek is in a singular direction. You know, he's trying to achieve something. We still give him room to act like a person.
And that's one of the benefits of this being more of an RPG style game with multiple side missions. You get to develop that character a little bit more. You get to see how passionate he is about the culture. You get to see him interact with Greeks, Egyptians, Romans, and he hates some of them. He likes some others. He has to work and develop with them. He has to lecture some people. He has to learn from others. He's a far more fully developed character, and that helps it, but it also hurts it. Because here's the thing, because Bayek is so well developed, when it forces you away to play someone like Aya, who isn't as well developed, and then they don't spend the time to develop her properly, it hurts. Because the thing is, I'm sitting there wondering, you have probably one of the best assassins in the series, almost as good as Ezio, if not on par. And Aya, you would leave that? Why would you leave that? Why would you leave?
So yeah, like Bayek is awesome, and as for Aya herself, I don't like her. Like, I'll be real honest, based on what I've seen of her, and you've seen more of her than I have, but I don't like her. Her character kind of did a 180 for me. Like, started out as kind of a entertaining, very passionate woman who, while upset and grieving for the loss of her son, still tried to move forward and tried to make a difference, and then just turned into this angsty, emotionless bitch who says she's going to divorce Bayek because they're not getting enough done while together. And then just becomes the cold Mary Sue assassin that we're supposed to be endeared to. I like how the whole game ends with her writing a letter to Bayek. Not with any words from Bayek, because, you know, like, Ezio, at least you could argue he left some final words for Desmond. Edward Kenway left some final words with his daughter while he's taking her on a boat ride. Connor left some final words for his father and for the character at the end of his game. The character you played as and traveled with had some words to tell you. I is the one who tells you the final words in the game. And Aya's words basically amount to, the creed is forever, we can't be together anymore because I don't love you, I am now Amunet, I am awesome.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, and I'm like, what does that tell me? It doesn't tell me anything about you. It's basically just you being you're basically being Rey Skywalker or Captain Marvel or any other Mary Sue character. Look at how awesome I am. I don't need nobody in my life. My pain makes me stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
just whatever. But thing is, and if that was just it wouldn't be a problem. But the problem is, another thing with how the game is set up, since you have to travel around and talk with so many characters, most of the characters aren't truly developed. Most of the side characters are, at least. They're not bad, they just aren't developed, and so it's hard to count them as characters because a lot of them are just sort of one notes.
Right.
Some of them are good, like I like Apollodorus, but he's just sort of a quest giver.
Yeah.
Cleopatra started out interesting, but then they kind of flounder with her characters, like, did you finally join the Order of the Ancients? Why did you stick around? Because Cleopatra, the reason she allied with Rome so much is because this was an alliance of necessity, and the reason she still stayed around trying to work with different Roman generals like Mark Antony is because of that. And I wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see more of the struggle Cleopatra had to go through to try and keep herself on the throne.
Genuinely, like, let's talk Cleopatra. You know, what a fascinating person to go into historically. Like, there are two ways that people typically look at Cleopatra. A strong woman leader, I've heard people call her that, and two, a whore. And because
the truth meets in the middle.
Yeah, because Marilyn Monroe, you know, the way she portrayed her. But the truth is, she was stuck between a rock and Rome. That's essentially what it is. Yep. She was put on the throne, but she was basically Rome's dog. You know, that was the way they looked at her. Like, what was it Julius Caesar said about her?
That was for, like, golden asp or golden viper.
Yeah, he called it, like,
because she was good at pleasing him with her mouth.
Yeah, we won't say any more about that. My point being, though, she didn't have the chance to do any good or bad ruling because Rome was basically watching over her shoulder saying, are you doing what we want you to do? Are you doing? And so I really would have liked to see her struggle. How does a woman like that, who's been put into this position of power, but only at the behest of another stronger power, how does she deal with that? How does she give herself some independence? How does she rectify with herself, yeah, I'm definitely a leader? Or does she see herself, I'm not even a leader, Rome's a leader? Like, what kind of character could we get? And at first, I really liked it. She kind of had an attitude, a sass to her, a good personality. She saw herself as a leader, but recognized that she needed other alliances to keep herself in power. It was a cool balancing act. But then later, and here's the thing, I don't entirely blame her for siding with Rome in the end because she needed to.
She needed that Rome in order to overthrow her brother.
She needed that help, and I get that. I'm cool with that. That's fine. but explore maybe how she felt about that. Did she not trust Bayek and Aya? How does she feel about betraying them? Maybe you could have her apologizing later, saying, I'm sorry, I have no choice in this. Or, but no, they just threw out her character that they worked so hard to build because they've got to make her the villain.
Yeah, they got to make her villain, and they didn't even follow through on that commitment. And Caesar, like, they started out with some building there, but the thing is, couldn't they at least make him a fun villain? You're gonna make him a villain. Make him like a Rodrigo. Make him like this cool, calm, calculating villain that's always on top of it, so that killing him actually has some weight to him. But no, it's just kill Caesar. I barely know him.
The problem is, like, I mean, I still would say you shouldn't have made it a villain. I see Julius Caesar as a Chad.
I do too. But the thing is, if you're gonna kill him, make him a villain, at least have some fun.
Or it'd be kind of cool. What if you killed him? But it's revealed he's not the bad guy. You were manipulated into thinking he was the bad guy.
The bad guy's actually Mark Antony.
Yeah, that would have been fine. That would have been okay.
And we're related to Mark Antony. We're allowed to say
that. Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about the in-game characters. Let's talk about the out-of-animus characters.
Okay, they suck. Moving on.
Yeah, they suck. Okay, so...
Because there's three. There's William Miles. He says, like, 2 lines, and he's done. Other one's just a Mary Sue, who's Mr. Perfect, who's Mrs. Perfect, and I'm gonna get revenge for you getting my honey. And her beloved one is a disembodied voice that got killed in a hotel room. Just kidding. No, she somehow survived. I'm assuming there's a comic or something that explains it,
or some kind of DLC.
I'm not interested.
I don't care. So yeah, the characters get a C.
One more thing.
Oh,
because the thing is, we also got to talk about the other villains that get axed off throughout the thing.
Oh, okay.
Most of them, with the exception, there was 1 or 2 that actually did not get very much developed. There was only one that really stood out to me, and that was because he actually started out as a friend, and then it's revealed that he tricked you the whole time, and you were actually helping him out for a while, and I thought it was doing. And he had a family that endeared himself to Bayek, and so it was like you had to kill one of your own brothers along the way. It's like, okay, that was kind of clever. I like that. But the problem is the rest of them are kind of just like, oh, they're there. But at least one thing I will give them, they did bring back, is unlike with, say, stuff like Unity, where they actually did have these scenes after you kill them where you do get to talk down to them. Most of them are actually pretty good.
Okay.
But still, C, because Bayek is very strong, but the other characters just aren't built up as much.
That's fair. I think that's fair. All right, so we've talked characters, story, and history, and now time to talk gameplay. Right. What do you give gameplay?
Gameplay gets an A. This is where the game truly shines. Now, it's not good enough to get an S in my opinion.
And we'll get into why.
But the thing is, this, compared to having to play Unity and Syndicate, Origins was a breath of fresh air. The stealth isn't perfect, and you will get caught, but the thing is, I find it far more forgiving than Unity or Syndicate ever was. Like, typically when I get caught in Origins, I go, how did I... Oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I jumped in front of a guy. Not to mention, they've replaced Eagle Vision, which is a controversial decision, and instead give you an actual eagle.
To look around for you.
Yeah, who basically pulls what they do in Far Cry Primal, and you just look around and you spot...
I need to play that game again.
Yeah, you do. but spot enemies, and that helps going through, and just you can stealth kill your way through a fortification. Like through a whole fort, and it is fun to do so. And also the combat. The combat is one of the first. You can parry, you can block. Don't, though. Your best bet is actually to dodge, though I have seen people effectively do block. I'm more of the dodge happy.
I can parry all right.
Yeah, but the thing is, and you also get a wide variety of weapons, and each weapon fights a little bit different. You get straight swords, sickle swords, kopashes, spears, staves, heavy axes, heavy blunts, and dual daggers. And so you get to pick and choose.
Wait, they have heavy blunts? Dude.
Whoa, man. And they also have
that's some sweet Egyptian kush, man.
No, kush is down south.
Yeah, totally.
We're getting demonetized now, aren't we?
Probably.
But anyway, they also have curved swords.
Curved? Somewhat from Hammerfeld.
Yeah.
We got off topic. Okay.
Regardless, but each weapon, and weapons can have special things. Like there's some that are always on fire, some that when you kill someone you get health. Some are cursed and you actually lose health, but they have other trade-offs to it. And I think the weapon system will get fully polished over in Odyssey, but there's also you get to use multiple types of bows, which I don't know how that works, why, but whatever. So you have predator bows for long range stuff. You have a hunting bow for your average deal. You have warrior bow, which lets you shoot multiple arrows at once. Don't use it; it's not worth it. You have a light bow, which is basically a rapid fire bow. Use it if it has a poison perk. And so you have a lot of interesting stuff to work with here.
You basically have options, which is a far cry better from Syndicate.
Mm-hmm. But on top of that, you do have to keep upgrading, because if you do not upgrade your stuff as you level up, you're going to have a harder time. But fortunately, if you want to, you could just blitz through all of the level ups in probably an afternoon if you just are dedicated to hunting the materials that you need to use to upgrade your stuff. And I beat the game without upgrading all the gear, so it is possible, but it's kind of fun to go through and like upgrade the gear. I think they could have been a little bit more fine-tuned. This is fun. And there's also a lot of side missions to distract. It's like, well, I really don't want to do the main mission right now. I'd like to do something else. There's plenty of side missions to do to help you level up, gain experience. And when you level up, you get to add on perks. Now, the perks will get better in Odyssey, but for right now, some of them are pretty cool. Like, you can get new tools like throwing fire bombs, poisoning bodies to... poisoning bodies, so that when people walk by, they start catching a disease and they start slowly drop dead. The sleeping darts, taming animals to help fight for you, calling your own personal chariot. There's a lot of cool stuff you can use with this. And so running around Egypt, going through tombs, finding mummies, fighting off people, it's a fun experience when you're playing as Bayek.
Yep, now we're getting into the first of two problems we have with the gameplay.
Yeah, now... Here's the thing. You also get to play as Aya. Now, when you're playing as Aya on the ships and doing naval missions, there's like 3. It's okay. I really didn't care for the naval missions because unlike, say, in Black Flag or Rogue or Odyssey, I don't get to mess with my ship and customize it the way I want to. I kind of have to play by the rules, kind of like how you had to play it in 3. But it was serviceable. But the problem is, when you have to play as Aya in sort of the physical stuff, you have to use her dual daggers, and you have to use her 2 crappy bows. So you could spend hours upon hours dropping stuff into Bayek to make him the ultimate assassin in Egypt, the best guy there is, and then the game says, play with Aya, but I don't want play with Aya. Well, can I at least change out her stuff? No. And here's the thing. If you wanted Aya in this game that bad, you could have done what you did in... I can't believe I'm saying this, but you could have done what you did in Syndicate and just let you flip back between them, let them share gear, and let them have 2 sort of different perk trees you could have...
How does it feel, Origins, to know that Syndicate did something better than you?
That's gotta hurt. But
yeah, but I think what makes it worse, what makes that whole thing worse, is if Aya was only used like every maybe twice or 3 times in the game total, and it was very sparse, that would be one thing. But they end. The final mission is all Aya. The final mission is her being fighting the final boss, which I think is a sin in and of itself, because you've built up Bayek as the ultimate assassin warrior. He should get the honor of fighting the last boss, but no, the one you can't customize fights the last boss, and she's the one who gets to kill the big bad guy, even though you did not play with her as much. She's supposed to be... I looked at Aya as kind of this character that you kind of get to experience on the side, kind of like if you were playing the Spider-Man game. Occasionally you'll have a mission where you have to play as Miles Morales or Mary Jane Watson, and we always knew those aren't why we play the game. It's like they're just going to be a little small side thing just to distract us from Spider-Man himself, but Spider-Man's still coming back, and he's going to be the one who fights the enemy in the end. But here, it's like they said, no, that one side thing, that's the main thing. Like, that's the main end of the game. It would be like ending the Spider-Man game by not having Spider-Man fight Dr. Octavius, but instead having Mary Jane Watson sneak a virus onto his back that you're playing as, and when she sneaks the virus onto his back, he falls over it because his arms are broken, and that's what ends the game. It would be incredibly anticlimactic and stupid, because it's like, no, I sunk all this time and energy into Peter Parker, not Mary Jane Watson. But here, we sank all this time and energy into Bayek and renting the game with a character we couldn't do anything with other than just say, all right, we'll play her now, I guess.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's like, if you wanted us to play as Aya and Bayek, do what you did in Syndicate and let us play as both. Or do what you did in the later games and say pick one or the other.
Yeah.
That would have been fine. I would have been fine with that.
If you started with Aya,
that would have been fine too. But you did it in half measures, and that's what's hurting you. But overall, though, gameplay is phenomenal.
There is one more thing.
What am I forgetting?
It's a personal thing for me, so I don't know if you would think about it, but the RPG style games started this new trend that I don't like with not only this game, but Odyssey and Valhalla. The climbing mechanics. I tested this when I played Valhalla, Odyssey, and I haven't played Origin, so I couldn't test it there. But basically, I wanted to try something. I wanted to try, because here's the thing. Parkour in all the games has always been a topic of contention, like how you climb walls, how you scale buildings, how you jump from place to place. I decided to do a little experiment. I took my characters in both Odyssey and Valhalla and had them run at a sheer cliff, just nothing but a sheer-faced rock wall. I did not do anything but push down on the analog stick to make them go forward and hold down the parkour button, because I thought I want to see if they can actually be held up, if something will actually stop them, if I actually have to adjust where I'm climbing. Nope. You can just scale whatever is in front of you. More often than not, nothing is unscalable. And to me, that hurts. I go along with what Chris Raygun said about world building. If you do not make the world in which you inhabit have obstacles in it, or direct you in a certain way, then the game feels less rewarding. It's kind of like climbing High Hrothgar in Skyrim. You have to follow the staircase. You are limited by the walls around you. You're limited by the sheer rock face. It directs you in a way. And is it hard? Heck yeah, it's hard. But don't you feel satisfied when you make it through and get to the castle at the top? Imagine if they'd taken that away and just said, no, you can just climb straight up.
There's an elevator.
Yeah, there's just an escalator, you know.
Well,
you just needed to go that way. That's right there.
Mm-hmm. And thankfully, actually, in this one, it's not near as bad.
Oh, it isn't?
No, there isn't, which is why I didn't calculate it.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I retract my statement.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm glad you brought it up, because that is going to be a problem in later games. And in Origins, they still actually keep it, because, like, you can't just climb straight up a pyramid. Like, well, some of them you can, but not all of them you can. But there's other ones where it's like, I want to get to that viewpoint, I'm going to climb with this sheer rock face. You can't do it. You have to find another way around. So it's more forgiving than, say, previous Assassin's Creed games in the parkour mechanic, but it's not as forgiving as the later ones. So it's sort of getting a middle thing. I think I would have liked to see a little bit more difficulty here and there, but it's not like, say, in the original Assassin's Creed, where you run over, when you try and run up a wall and eventually you jump off a bridge.
Right. Okay, so sorry about that, but anyway, so gameplay gets an A. So that gives us a B, a C, and an A. So with all those four put together, they combine to give us
B tier.
A B tier, yeah. It's kind of funny. A lot of the Assassin's Creed games that we've played seem to just hit that B tier, hit that sweet spot where it's not amazingly great, but it isn't terrible either. The problem is, I really wanted Origins to reach A. I really wanted it, but we realized as we were playing through it, because you were having a ball. Like, Lark, you would be sitting here playing it for hours, just laughing, having a good time. I could tell you were enjoying it. But then as we got to the end, I could tell you were getting mad. Like, there were moments where you just had this look on your face that said, I'm not enjoying this anymore.
My biggest reaction was, why?
Well, the reason we didn't make it go lower is because we took our cue from Russian Badger when talking about Far Cry 5. He mentioned that in Far Cry 5, the enemy is shit. No matter what ending you get, it is shit. But he made the point. Does a bad ending ruin the entire experience? It almost did for us. The way we talked about it, Lark, you were debating dropping this thing to D tier. But after calming down and thinking about it, you did come to the conclusion, you know.
I did have fun with it, and that's the point of the game. At the end of the day, to have fun, it can still be used as a historical resource. But when I originally, because here's the truth, when I first picked up this game, I really, really loved it. However, I stopped playing it because Odyssey came out, and I was more endeared to the Greek history than I was to Egyptian. And so I said, I'll just come back and pick up Origins later. So when we started doing this series again, I said, I'm going to do Origins because I want to finish it, because I remember having fun with it. And as I was playing it, I remember all those fun memories came back. I was having a great time. I was doing it. And then as I started to get into the final stretch, it's basically like watching a football play. I apologize to our European audience. I'm referring to American football. And you see a guy carrying about. He's getting right to the end zone. He's getting almost to the touchdown, and then he fumbles the ball. That's exactly what I saw. It's like, beautiful play, and then you fumble.
Yep.
So all in all, I can't bring myself to hate it, but its faults prevent it from getting up into the higher tier status. But still, Origins is worth a playthrough. It's not like Syndicate or Unity where I say you can probably skip it. I would say Origins is worth a playthrough, because there are some people that will actually say out of the RPG Assassin's Creed games, this one is their favorite. For me, it's not my favorite. It's my second favorite.
And we will talk about your favorite and my favorite of the RPG Assassin's Creed games next time. I'm still working my way through Odyssey. Don't ask me when it'll be done. It's just taking time. It also doesn't help that I have other projects that that get my attention. It's easier for Lark because Lark, you really only do Lark's Lamentation and these with me, so it's easier for you to get these done. It takes longer for me, but I'll do my best to get Odyssey done, and then when we're done, we'll come back for another round of Assassin's Creed Ranked. I hope you guys haven't waited too long for this one. We had a lot of fun talking about this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let us know by commenting down below. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to check out the playlist where you can see all of our Assassin's Creed Ranked videos and sort of see how our thoughts all created the tier list you saw just a second ago. But until next time, we will see you in our next video. Take care.
Have a good one, guys.